this talk will be about securing a publishing deal for your game. But it's also going to be about what a game needs to be able to have a publisher who actually want your game. A lot of people think, I'm going to make this great game, and then in 2 months, I'm going to sell it to EA for $5 million, and I'm going to be rich. The problem is there's 200 other studios like you every month that go to EA trying to sell them their game. So it's very difficult to actually get a publishing deal. So before we start, who here is an indie developer? Oh yeah, the perfect crowd. Who here is a publisher? I'm so sorry. I'm sorry in advance for the bad things I'm going to say. No, that's not true. I'm not going to say bad thing about publishers. All right, so no, that's what I want. So who am I? My name is Louis-Rene Auclair. I'm from Montreal. I've been in this industry way too long. It says 18 years there, but I did the presentation last year, so it's 19 now. I used to run a studio in Montreal called Hibernum Creations. We used to do mostly mobile games, but also a bit of PC and console. I used to run, well, I say marketing there, but that is also a lie. I was mostly a product and biz dev guy. Now I run a consulting company called Rocket Jump Games, and I help studios around the world make better pitches, better concepts, and ultimately, hopefully, get a better deal. So first things first. I think I say evaluate your project, but what's really important is to set your expectations. You have to be surrounded with people, companies, friends, consultants, whatever you need to actually be able to evaluate your project and figure out what kind of publisher is good for you. So it's not always the biggest publisher with the most money. I would actually rather have a game that's going to be treated like an A+ project at a small publisher than a C+ project at a big publisher. And I've seen this happen very often. I've had friends actually ship games this year, and they never knew that they were a C project, and all of a sudden they wonder why there's a budget of marketing at launch of $10,000. And $10,000 as marketing, you can't do anything with that. So it's important for you to have an open, honest approach to evaluating your game. If you cannot do that because you're too in love with your game, have somebody else do it for you. There's actually companies in the US that evaluate games and give you a score to give you an idea of how good your game is going to be able to do. So those are good contacts to have. So before we go again and look at all this, let's take a closer look at the industry of games. And you're going to see, again, I made this presentation last year, so some of those data points are already very wrong. So this is the expectation of revenue growth in billions of dollars for 2021 versus 2016. So this is investment. So people invest, the further you are right, they invest more, and the further you are left, there's consolidation. Consolidation is M&A, studios closing, being bought out, mergers, everything. What's really funny in this is in 2016 and 17, VR games were considered the place to invest. I'm pretty positive that right now that orange ball of VR games is about here. And esports probably moved all the way there. VR hardware is probably no longer here at all. It's probably like in the back there. So that's to show you how quickly things move. People in 2016 thought that 80% of the game investments would go to VR. So how many people here have shipped the game in VR? Was it successful? Do you know why? Why? Or there's also no market? Okay. And that's a very good point we just made, you and I. I want this presentation to be interactive, please. So if you have questions or anything, stop me, because I'm getting thirsty and I need to have breaks. So this is what the market looks like. This is where it's going. You know, mobile games, that's still true. I think it's a consolidating market. There's not a lot of investments. Probably 10 publishers are looking to invest in mobile games right now. So it's very difficult to get deals done there, but it's also the biggest market where there's the most money being made. So it's still very attractive. So let's look at the mobile market. Let's use that as an example of how to evaluate your game, how to evaluate your project, and how to figure out what you can do with your game. So this is very interesting. Only 10% of the top 100 grossing games were independent publishers. The other 90% were all big publishers. So it's a very, very difficult AAA mobile market. The budgets of development are about $5 million in the vicinity of. You're going to need to have branded content. There's a lot of licensing games out there. You're going to need a multiple year to develop your game, sometimes 18, 24 months. You're going to need to prepare for a 3 years plan for live ops. And you're going to need a multi-million marketing budget when you launch. A lot of people, they forget to think about those things. Right now, the mobile market, the AAA mobile market, it's all about user acquisition. It's all about marketing. It's all about buying users to bring them in your game. You can no longer release a game in soft launch and just expect people to download it. I mean, they don't find it. It's impossible to find your game. So this is something you have to look at. So this is very gloom. That's not cool to look at. You're like, how am I going to make it in this mobile market? There are other options in the mobile market. If you look at the top 100 downloads, 42% were independents. So, is there something you can do in a market where you can go get a lot of downloads with a more independent approach? Virality are key, right? Those games need to be viral. If you play any of those games by Voodoo or things like that, they're very viral. People talk about them. There was a guy, I don't know if he's here, from Trivia Crack. This was one of the best examples of a viral game, right? Branded content is also very popular. Adaptation to the market changes. Simple gameplay loops. Often have to play with one hand because you want to play in the subway, you want to play in your bed, you want to play in the restrooms. So we all do it. It's okay, don't worry about it. Platform featuring is critical. At launch, you need to have that boost with the platform featuring and simplistic game design. But you still have to make money, right? So you need to be able to have simple IAPs or ad revenue-based games. However, the problem there is you have a churn. So simple games, simple gameplay loops that you make in 6, 8 weeks with 2, 3, 4 people, the problem is you're not going to have enough depth of your game to have a long retention. So that means you need to be able to monetize your users in a very short amount of time, sometimes 20 to 30 days. So as you can see, every month, 19% of the top 100 changes in downloads. So 20%, it's out, no longer there. So in the mobile market right now, you have not a lot of options. Either build a really big boat that's going to be huge, and huge, that just sounds like Trump, and or a very small, agile one. Or you can innovate. But innovation has a cost. I'll give you an example. Who here does work for hire? Okay, so less than I expected. So it's extremely difficult to do innovation in work for hire because most work for hire deals and contracts, and we're going to see some examples later, are built on milestones. I'm going to pay you $1 million to make a game in 12 months. The prototype phase ends in 2 months. When you finish with your prototype, the number one thing you should be testing is the game fun? But more often than not, when you get there, it's not necessarily fun, right? And then you start pretending to yourself, when I put the VFX in it, it's going to be more fun. This is a game that you need animation for it to be fun. So when we put the animation, it's going to be fun. All those are lies. It's not true. The game should be fun as a prototype. But what happens if the game's not fun? Do you fail the milestone? Will they not pay you? Do you ask for an extension or more money? The fear of getting a contract canceled when you work for hire is so high that you're just going to try to power this bad game through, which is another reason why, if you look at the top 100 games grossing, not a lot of them come out of the work for hire model. So innovation is really cool, but you cannot innovate in a fixed monthly milestone schedule type of thing. You need to be open and iterate until you're happy with it. Also, it's really important to know your strengths. Knowing your strengths is going to obviously expose your weaknesses, which is then going to expose what you need to have as a partner in publishing. A lot of people think, all I need is UA. I only need marketing. So this means that, what? Oh, you're good at gacha, at monitoring crashes, or at KPI optimization. You have a good legal team. So those are all things that publishers can do, and those are all things that you should be aware of that is needed to ship a game. So with that knowledge, you're going to be able to know what you need. So then you're like, okay, I evaluated my game. I know how good it is. I know what market I'm attacking. I know who's my target market. I know which publisher I should go. So I'm ready to go. So you're going to be like, all right, I'm going to go to GDC. I'm going to fly 3 people with me, and I'm going to go meet the publishers. Hopefully you know them, and you don't plan this just 1 week ahead, but then you have to go. So this is about what the desk of a publisher looks like, but remove the people and put pitches instead. Is anybody from Flair Games here? Falco's here, right? Is he in the room? No, okay. No, it was a good example. It's not a bad example. He was telling me, or I think Aurélien was telling me, they see about 100 to 200 pitches a week when they have a show week. So that's 100 pitches that you see in a 30-minute meeting. And after that, you all get the PDF or the PowerPoint sent to you, and then you have to review those pitches. So your expectation of how quick a deal is going to go, or how early or fast you're going to get feedback on your pitch, are always extremely misguided. It can take months, weeks. I'm actually right now, we're working to try to get a deal, and the publisher told us, you have 3 weeks to find a new, the IP owner told us, you have 3 weeks to find a publisher, because I think we're going to sign a deal in 3 weeks. That was 6 weeks ago. So you never go as fast as you think looking for a deal, and you're never alone in there. So who here are making PC games? In those PC games, how many are Battle Royale? Thank you. Every time you go to a show, every time you see a new game come out and goes to number 1, number 5, whatever, something that's really hot, you're going to get 40% of the pitches, and that's, by the way, 82% of all statistics are made up on the spot, but you're going to get so many pitches at that next show that are going to be about that specific genre. How many people made a Clash Royale pitch? How many people are making a Fortnite pitch right now? It's ridiculous. No, it's not Fortnite, but it's like Fortnite, but instead it's with tanks. Well, yeah, that's Fortnite. So it's really important to understand what the publishers are looking for, what the market is looking for, because usually the publisher will represent the market. And if you come there just with the same game, you're going to be in a pile of 100 pitches, and 40 of those are going to be the same exact pitch. And having the same exact pitch is never good. I should keep that in my hand instead. So you finally got off the desk, managed to meet him in person. You probably did 4 Skype calls, visited their office, went to 4 shows before you're finally ready to sign. So you met him at GDC, you spoke to them, and then at E3 you changed the update, the pitch. Then you sent a budget approval increase, and then you sent another spreadsheet that shows the team that's going to be on the project. Then you go to E3, Gamescom, and then after Gamescom you're ready to sign. Now you're going to need to negotiate that deal. And so this is more what we want to talk about here, is like, how do you negotiate the best contract for yourself, and what information do you need to have to actually know what to ask for. So these are negotiation techniques. So are you going to be competing, accommodating, avoiding, compromising, or collaborating? It's not only important to know what kind of person you are, but it's important to know what kind of person the guy on the other side is. And something I'm going to say a bit later, no, I'm going to say it now. Something that's very important is to always have a backup in negotiations. So, who here is another person? Yes. So, who here is the CEO of his company and do most of the biz dev? Okay, and do you negotiate your deals as well? So, if you fuck up, who can go back to the publisher and say, don't worry, fucked up, I'm going to fix it. There you go. So it's really important because you can have a lot more leeway to negotiate when somebody else is doing it for you, and then you can come in, disavow him, and change. And it's important that person is not the same type of negotiator as you are. Because if you're both accommodating, you're not going to get the best deal. But if one is accommodating and the other one is collaborating or competing, then you can start, getting some strategic negotiation in place. Because the publisher often will do the same techniques, right? He's your friend. You saw him at 4 shows. You drank a lot of booze, probably ate a spaghetti with him at one point. But that guy, when he's going to negotiate with you, he's going to try to do the best deal for his company first. So always have a backup. And then what's the philosophy of the deal? And again, that's, make friends at those trade shows. Talk to them. Find a person that negotiated a deal with that publisher. How was the negotiation? Well, he sent me an email on June 1st. And on September 30th, when we finally closed, it was the same exact deal. He never wanted to change the key terms. So we could not negotiate an improvement. It's important for you to know where you're going with this, because before sending an okay email, before sending a reply back saying, I agree with this, you need to know if you're going to be able to change it. If not, take your time. Oh, this is very important to see how somebody will evolve in his negotiation. The more leverage, we're going to talk about leverage, the more leverage a publisher has, the more chances he is going to be in the unchanging category. So sharing risk and upside. So most people want to be paid to make the game and want a royalty afterwards. Because everybody here is going to make a game that makes $100 million. We all know that, right? So we're all like so tempted to ask for high royalty, lower our margin, squeeze the team, lose money for the first 12 months because you're going to make it back in 24. Chances are you will not. However, remember that the more upside you ask, the more risk you're going to have to take. It's as simple as that. So when somebody asks me, how much of my own skin should I put in the game? Well, for me, you should put as much skin as you can. It's as simple as that. And you should make it extremely apparent to the publisher that you put that skin in. So if you worked on the prototype since January and you start pitching it in November of the following year, because you've been working on that prototype for a long time, you better show the exact cost that you spent in there. By the way, I just spent $400,000 on this already. That's my skin in that game. Yes. Yes, you do.
In Romania, wages are lower. Yeah. Secondarily, founders many times they don't get paid. They, to a certain extent, live off their own savings. If I were to calculate how much the game I'm making would cost, I don't know, in New York for a very similar team versus in Bucharest, I would give very different numbers. Which number should I give?
Again, it depends on who's in front of you. It depends on your game. It depends on a lot of things. If somebody in Romania creates the next Pokemon Go, hey, you're working at $150 US an hour, right? Because it's the next Pokemon Go. But if your game is tough and you're new, it's one of your first game, you just started, and you really want to, get a deal going, then you're going to be more, hey, what's the average wage of a senior producer in Romania? You put that wage. So it really depends, but you need to have that intelligence, that leverage, that knowledge to not sell yourself short. Mm-hmm. Too often I see this. I work with studios in Colombia a lot as well. And the average wage for somebody in Colombia is about $1,200 a month. In Montreal, it's $10,000. So it's almost 10 times lower. So they go, they make a game. The game looks like, I don't know, Zelda. And how much money do you need? Oh, $200,000. They can't do it for $200,000. But if the game's awesome, they could have asked $800. They would have gotten it, right? But then if you get the 800 instead of the 200, you don't share as much risk, so you might take upside. So all that is really important and relevant. Just make sure to show the risk that you took. Show that skin that you have in the game. So yeah, I think I covered. So using your leverage, again, make it obvious what you did. This is the 7th game that you do that's similar. You've been owning your skill for 7 games. The last 2 broke even. You feel that now you really know how to make money. That's leverage. That's you having owned your experience with your team. It's the same team making the games together for the past 3 years. These guys are ready to win a championship, right? I always say this, you're never gonna win a sports championship with an expansion team. It almost happened last year in the US with the Vegas Knights almost winning the Stanley Cup, and I was super upset because if they would have won, I could not have said that anymore, but they didn't, so I can still say it. So before you go to the table, know your leverage, know your strength. Also know what's a no-go for you. What is the term that you're gonna be like, no, I'm getting out of the table, of negotiating table. This is also a very powerful move that I don't recommend trying to do too often, getting up and stopping negotiations. It happens more often in mergers and acquisition than in publishing deals. But some people do it. Some people like get upset and like they bang the fist on the table and they get out. Depends on what kind of person you are, who's in front of you, how many times you've done it successfully. I don't recommend using that too often. And then also, if you know what you bring to the table, so if you know the leverage you're getting for yourself, you need to know what leverage that person is bringing to you. So if you are aware of the strengths because you did your research at the beginning, you know what publisher, the games he did, you called other studios and asked them how the deal went, asked them how the launch went, all of a sudden you have information. That information is their leverage. You can use that for yourself. I won't say against them because I don't like that, but you can use that for your benefit and get a better deal. So the specific common issues, things that you need to look into a contract. So first of all, who here has a law degree? So, sort of? CEO, indie, founder, lawyer, anything else we should know? Half lawyer.
I've done judicial course.
Okay, left side, right side? No, kidding. So who here does not have a law degree and is in charge of the contract review at his company? All right. Very dangerous. I'm sure you know that. I would highly recommend getting a lawyer if you can, especially if you're close to getting the deal done and you're feeling confident. That potential $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 might save you $20, $50, $100. What are the common issues to look at? If you cannot get a lawyer, like I just want to do it myself, make sure to understand these 5 things. What are the approvals? The ownership of the assets, the marketing, what's the termination, and what's the revenue split? So approval is critical, especially if you work with IP. Most approval terms are going to go like this. I approve when I want. If I don't send you an email that it's approved, it's not approved. And then maybe I'll send you an email after that. You just need to send me an email asking me to approve, and I'll tell you when I'll approve. Again, work for hire deals, milestones, not approved. It can go on and on and on and on, and then you can get screwed out of a lot of money. So I highly recommend making sure that the approvals are as favorable to you as possible. It's very difficult, by the way, and they're going to say, no, it's sorry, that's our contract. That's the contract we always use. I can't change that. That's not true. They can change it. Ownership of assets. That's a big thing. So a lot of people are very desirable to keep their IP. Who here are building new IP? You love your IP, right? You don't love it? My God. We're going to have a talk. But a lot of people want to keep their IP. Oh, it's my IP. I want to keep my IP. I would say personally, there's more value in the technology that you're building as IP than there is as the brand that you're building. The brand will only get its value if the game is successful, if there's enough downloads, if the marketing is strong. So your brand at the moment of negotiation has no value at that moment. You can try to use it as leverage. If you've built multiple brands in the past, you can say, hey, I've built all these brands. Look at how good I am at brands. If you feel that there's a strong interest for your brand, use it. But if not, I would personally use it as reverse leverage, giving back the IP after pretending that you wanted to keep it to get a bit more leverage on other terms. Marketing. Launching a game without marketing is almost impossible. You're going to find, especially in your first contract negotiations, I'm looking at you, you're going to find that a lot of publishers that are going to be interested in your game, that's more indie, that's more difficult to sign, are going to not be strong at marketing. They're almost more distributors than publishers, and they're going to be, I cannot give you marketing. I can give you potential of marketing if you reach certain KPIs. If you get $2 million revenue the first quarter, then I'm going to give an extra $200K of marketing. So it's very difficult for them to provide marketing. The better the publisher, the more open they're going to be at it, but the more difficult they're going to be to get interested at your game. So always try to get a marketing commitment within your contract. Termination, super important to understand termination. Is there a kill fee attached? Who keeps the rights if they terminate? For breach, for convenience. I mean, terminations are the most important clauses because that's the thing that, that's the final thing. That's the thing that ends a contract. And most of the time you're going to get terminated and they're going to, not when, if you get terminated, they're not going to be pissed at you. You didn't get into a fight and they just terminate you out of anger. But if that could happen, make sure that you are very, very well aware and you negotiate good terms there because you can get screwed and you can be a team of 20 without money the next day. So it's really important. Revenue split, simple, who makes money out of what and when. So is it recoupable? Do you get in advance? Do you get royalties? Do you get revenue share? All these things need to be taken care of.
So I have a question about that. What are the common rates about the split that an indie gamer should, any developer should expect for a simple game, let's say?
It's all about leverage and how much can you have in the game. If you don't pay, if you don't bring anything and he pays the entirety of the game, gives you all the money to make the game, and then does the marketing, you basically are a work for hire studio for that almost. I mean, you'd be happy with 15-20% of revenue split. Very happy. If you make the entire game and they're just the publisher and they come in and it's not the right term, but and they are the publisher, they bring the marketing, they bring a PR campaign and they help you ship your game, but you did the entire game, you can go the other way, right? Maybe you get 70%. But you also have to make sure, and the revenue split is not the most important thing, by the way. So, sorry. I want you to make sure that you leave enough share to the publisher that he's interested. Because if he's only making 20%, he might not be interested in that 20%. He might not want to push your game. So all of a sudden, you are super excited that you won so much leverage with your royalty rate, but you made it unappealing to the publisher to market it. So it's a term of balance. But so that's the traditional model. That's what we want to talk about. Did I answer your question properly? Okay. So the budget in the traditional model is a recoupable advance against royalties. I think one of the most important thing I can tell you when you're negotiating terms like this, ask a spreadsheet from the publisher that will show you how they calculate royalties and your revenue. I'll give you an example. Budget of the game is $1 million. Your royalty is 10%. You're not going to start making 10% of the game when the game makes $1 million. You're going to start making money out of the game when the game makes 10 million. Because you will have recouped your advance at your 10% rate times the revenue. So if he advanced you $1 million, the game needs to make 10 million for you to have recouped. And if you don't get that information properly from the publisher and you make your own spreadsheet and you're like, in month 2, I'm going to make so much money. And then you're month 11 and you haven't seen 1 penny. So very important, ask for an example. At this moment, the publisher will handle all the development-related expenses, no royalty until fully recouped. Could result in the development budget being kept artificially low to increase royalties and decrease payout timeline, right? So if you're in that position, you're like, I don't want to get too much money up front because I want the royalties. So you're going to try to, make a budget that's too low. But then the problem there is that you're not going to have enough money to make a better game. So you're going to be trying to cut corners, and cutting corners in a game is never good. So you might be in a tough position while you're trying to lower your expenses to get royalties. So this is something to be aware of. Wrong side. The break-even model, a lot more interesting. The publisher will start giving you royalties when he's break-even. So cost $1 million, I make $1 million, you get royalties. What's probably going to happen here is that you're going to get lower royalties. So you're going to be in a moment where he says, yeah, I'm going to give you royalties when I break even, but I'm going to keep most of it. So I'm going to give you just 5%. There's also, again, you're going to try to get a lower dev rate to get your royalties faster. That feels more like a true partnership, right? There's a quicker potential. You feel more incentivized. You're really excited. So this is a good model, especially if you feel that your game is going to be successful. It's good to push for that one. The burn rate deals. So a burn rate deal is, hey, I'm going to make this game, and every month I'm going to have a team of 10 on it. My team of 10 costs me $50,000 a month, so you're paying me $50,000 a month. It's like a retainer, but you have to show how many people are going to be on the project the next month, and they just approve it, and you go for it. So this is low risk. So again, risk versus, what? Yes, but that's not the word. Upside, yes. I forgot. Whew. Tough day. Yeah, so you have no risk, right? I mean, your costs are covered. Example, a studio in mobile that does that a lot, the publisher Scopely does that model a lot. He's going to say, okay, how much does each of your employee earn plus benefits? I'm paying just that. So you break even, almost no profit throughout the entire production. You have the ability to focus on the game and not cut corners because you're going to get money all the time. However, you're going to get a lower royalty rate, and it gives a lot of visibility to your cost to the publisher. Because all of a sudden you're sharing the cost, you're sharing the team members, you're sharing all that information that the publisher can have leverage over you, for instance, if he decides to buy you. And also, it keeps you artificially break-even too long. So it's difficult to make profits in that model. So if you don't make too many profits, you're also always like this, handing out your hand, please give me money, give me money. So you are in a position of weakness facing that publisher. This is my favorite picture, by the way. I took this in Africa, northern Africa. There's been a huge flood at one point, and the sharks and the horses. No, that's all a lie. So the dev fee financing hybrid. So you raise a bit of money, you go get $200,000. You're going to use that to make your game, and then you're going to go to a publisher to get the remaining $800,000 that you need. That's really good because you bring leverage to the table. I already have 200K. Don't worry about it. I just need 800. I cover the rest. It's also a quicker reimbursement of their royalties, so it's good advantages. However, the revenues are split with more partners. And in a position where the market is super competitive, like mobile, for instance, this is a very difficult model. You also see that model when there's a license. You're lucky you sign a Marvel license or Disney and you're all excited. So Disney gets a cut, the publisher gets a cut, the developer wants a cut, and all of a sudden, if the remaining cut in the negotiation of the deal is not enough for the publisher to do marketing on your game, it's like you have not made a game. Like I said, right? No marketing, no game. So you have to be aware of that because, again, if you don't leave enough for the publisher, he's not going to want to push your game. It also decreases the focus from publisher if royalties are too low. So it's exactly what I just said. So pure financing. You finance everything. I'm in charge. I'm going to come to you and I just want you to publish. So more liberty to run your studio and game allows the team and studio to grow on multiple fronts. Because if you remember at one of the early slides, we looked at everything that we need to be aware of, able to do in order to actually ship a game successfully. So in that situation here, you say, I got my money, I just need you to market the game. But is that true, right? Maybe the publisher has done 12 other games like yours in the past 10 years, and he knows what works and what doesn't. Maybe he has expertise internally. So it's really important to remember to know your weaknesses and your strengths and focus on them and go get the help that you need from the right publisher. If you've been in business 10 years, you've done 10 games like this, you know exactly what you're doing, like, I got this, just give me marketing. So really, you have to be aware before you go on that model. And whatever you decide, because that's my last slide, before last. Whatever you decide, keep your focus. So one thing that I learned running a studio that I unfortunately had to close last year is focus is key. If you go and make a game and raise a bit of money for it and you have a little bit extra, a little bit profit there, I don't recommend starting a second game and third game because you're really excited about the other idea. And then, oh, you know what? I'm going to start doing all the conferences and the talks. And you know what? I think I'm going to hire somebody that does that job for me instead because I don't want to focus on the game. I want to just be the CEO. And then all of a sudden, you're moving in a situation that you are completely out of focus. Your publisher gave you money for a game that's not going well, not hitting the milestones. It's not quite polished enough, but you're doing all the other things that you like. The termination clause that we talked about earlier is going to become really important at that time. And I think the only thing that's the most important for you should be your product. It's your game. The game, it's all about the game. And that's something you should focus on. And that's it. So that's me. Really excited to be here. And I think we have a lot of time left. We have 18 minutes left. So I'd love to do questions. Yes?
Okay.
I was not expecting a question, I gotta say.
Alright, so you are using as an example the whole, I've put in 200K, give me 800K. Is it a bad thing when like the proportions are the other way around? I put in 200K, give me 50K. Is that something that puts off publishers because we're maybe asking too little?
So it depends on your game, but it will happen that you will have built, because you're in Romania and it's less expensive, a game that should be 2 million and you ask for 200K for. Yeah. And the publisher is going to be, that guy doesn't know what the hell he's talking about.
What should I do then? Like explain to them?
What you should do is make friends with people with experience, talk to them, ask them, what do you feel that game is? You should evaluate the competing market of the other games. Try to figure out how much those games cost. Look up a game and then look up the CEO of that company and call him. Hey, buddy, how much did your game cost? People are going to talk. I mean, other CEOs are like you. They are willing to share and talk and have fun. So I would definitely not stay in my cocoon and think I'm okay by myself. And if at the end it is 200 plus 50 and you only need 50, then explain it properly, show why, show the numbers, and this is what I need, and then we're set. A publisher's not going to say he doesn't like it, but you have to be aware of the product you're talking about. Yes?
What's the trending in the PC market?
Pardon me?
The trending in the PC market today, you happen to know?
So the PC market, are you talking mostly Steam or like download? So the trend in the PC market right now that I'm seeing and that a lot of people have been talking about, it's becoming more and more cluttered, and it's becoming like iOS and Google of 4 years, 5 years ago. The bulk of the games that are on Steam have been shipped in the past year. So it's extremely competitive. It's the same thing as hey, remember 7 years ago when Tiny Wings came out? It was one dude that did this in his basement. It was awesome. Yeah, that's one game out of 600,000 that shipped that year. So it's the same thing, right? The Stardew Valley of this world and other things like that, they won't happen again. Well, no, they will, but they're going to be the exception and not the rule. So the PC market is getting more and more difficult. The budgets are going higher. Production value is increasing. A lot of multiplayer, esports, back-end heavy games. It's more and more competitive. Please continue. The guy with the red shoelaces. Oh no, sorry, you're sleeping. Anyone else? Did you have a question for me? I'm joking. He's still sleepy. Go for it.
Show us the dynamic of negotiation. For example, how would a competitor partner would clash with someone? Does it make a difference? Maybe someone is in a competition when it comes to negotiation, and the other one is cooperation.
Mm-hmm.
Why would they clash? How would they do? An example of a dynamic, one that can go well and one that can go wrong.
Oh my God. I'm going to try to give you a live example, something that happened to me, let's say, but I need to find one. Yes, I do have one. Okay, so I was doing this game with an Australian company about fruits and ninja. I don't know if you know, I won't say more. It was 5 years ago. It was for the Xbox One Connect. And we had a budget of 1.2 million. And we did the entire production while the creative director of the franchise was on vacation for 6 months because he felt like it. And then he came back in beta. We were closing the game. Then he plays the game, says it's all wrong. The 0.2 milliseconds missing at that jumpy thing and the slashy mic thing and all those things, I don't like him, we have to change all that. And the requests of change were $400,000. And that company, Australian company, had a lawyer on their team. And that person came in like a bull in a china shop. That person said, I'm going to hurt Hybridum. I'm going to come in and I'm going to tell them, you do that, you fuck up the game, you're going to pay for all of it, and you're going to ship it before October. So that was the message of that person to me on a phone. And that person started raising her voice. And I don't do really well on those things. I don't know if you know this thing about, it's also important to know where people are from. And Canadians, we're very mellow. We're very chill. We don't like to fight. But it's like hockey, right? If you push too much, then I'm going to break a tooth. So what happened is I did the same exact thing that person did. I lost my temper and I started yelling at that person. And then you have two people negotiating for $400,000, yelling at each other on the phone on a game that is in beta, almost closed, almost finished. Their leverage was, I have the last payment, I won't pay you. Our leverage was, I'm not going to ship your game, it won't be out for Christmas. I was going to say a swear word, but I know I'm being filmed. So what I did here, I was lucky enough, I was not the CEO, I had a CEO, but I also had an executive producer that was really good and in good relations with their team. So they wanted us to go to Australia to finish the game. And then what I did is I did one call with the CEO, not the lawyer. And I said, I agreed to send my team there. I'm going to calm down and they're going to finalize the negotiation while they're there. We're going to finish your game. You got to tell me that you're going to cover the cost. Not all of it, but some of the cost. And we're going to find a good means of where to make this work. In the end, they gave us a bit more royalties. They gave us $280,000 of the 400, which was fine because we had margin on the rest. And I never spoke to that person again. Because it was broken, right? There's no way you can come back from that. We went there, we finished the game. Then Microsoft decided that the Xbox, the Kinect was no longer a priority. So no, the game, well, there's no Kinects. Again, VR, right? The same thing as VR. There's no market, so the game didn't do well. But that's a thing where when you have a clash, something breaks. That's when you need your backup. That's exactly when you need your backup. or having the ability to regain that trust, but in a negotiation, it's very difficult. So I would move it away.
Okay, I understand.
Yes.
I have a question about the equivalent of the Steam market on consoles. So, for example, independent games on Xbox, on PlayStation, on Switch.
Yeah.
How are those markets compared to Steam?
I don't know them a lot. I would say to focus on premium games, not free to play. I would say that right now everybody's in love with Switch. So you know what's gonna happen to Switch? It's gonna become the next Steam. So when everybody falls in love with a market because you hear 4 games in a row made so many sales at the launch of their game on the Switch, then everybody's gonna say, wow, we're making our game for Switch, right? It's like, oh, Clash Royale came out, I'm making a Clash Royale, right? So it's always like that, and there's too many game makers for platforms. So right now I think the market is too big, we're too many of us making games, some of you should stop, and I'm kidding, that's not true, don't do that. We should just make sure that more people love our games. I don't know about the other two. I've shipped a game once on PlayStation 3 or 4 indie store, didn't do well. I don't know who here buys indie games on any console, like direct to download. Scott? See? So we are gamers. We are the best #1 target market for ourselves, and 2 people said yes. Maybe 3 more are shy, didn't say yes, but maybe we're 4 here. So the market is smaller, in my opinion. Please continue.
One more
Yes.
question about the marketing. What do you think for an indie game without any budget and not looking necessary for a publisher? What would be the must do to get at least a bit of marketing, to have at least a bit of success with the game? What is essential to do as marketing?
As much money as you can. So, I've heard people trying to ship a game with $20,000 of marketing. Do you have an IP? Do you have a brand? Do you have a strong following on community? Do you have anything that works that people are looking for, or is your game completely unknown and you have to start from scratch? All those questions are important for you to answer. Get your game tested, go to shows, go to PAX, go get it seen. It's going to cost you money. So it's going to be a direct link. So the budget marketing you put is directly linked to how many sales you're going to get, and that ratio is going to change depending on how good your game is. And you're going to know pretty fast. I mean, you're going to try with $15,000, $20,000. And if all the marketing, all the users you bring in give you bad reviews or bad ratings or don't play the game more than 1 hour and that's it, I would stop marketing the game entirely. Because then you're just going to burn that money, right? So it's very difficult for me to answer that. Yeah.
In terms of what tools to use to invest this money, is like ads on Facebook, or what sort of marketing do we need?
So, I mean, you can do ads on Facebook, you can do stuff on Instagram, on Twitter, there's so many ways to market your game. It depends what your game is. What's your game? Give me an example of your game, for example. No, don't tell me everything.
It's a party game, local couch co-op.
Okay. Local couch co-op. Pardon me?
It's a small niche.
Okay, yes, it is.
Difficult to reach players. It's
Yes.
not, YouTubers or Twitchers.
Yes.
They're not playing with many friends.
No. But I think this is a game that needs to be viewed, to be played. I would try to get people playing the game together. I would try to film that, to try to build a social media brand. So try to get people to play that game, film them, start building hype around it, do fun, easy tournaments, like rent a cinema like this, and bring your game here and bring people to play and try it and film them playing it and then try to build the hype around that. It's going to be very difficult. I have a group of friends from Colombia that shipped a game like this on Switch last spring, and they did not do really, really well. I don't remember the title of the game. You can ask me for a card and I'll tell you afterwards, so you can look at the game and do competitive analysis. You can also reverse engineer other marketing campaigns. Try to figure out see how other studios do it. track games that you know are being, so if you go to PAX, you're going to see games that are similar to yours. Then track their website and their social media to see how they're doing it, and then try to find your USP within that strategy and try to reciprocate it. Yeah, it's really tough. It's a big job, yes. Please continue, we have 5 minutes left. Nothing? Ah, yeah.
Okay, so I have a question. So we're developing a mobile arena board type of game.
Yeah.
And we're at this stage that we're looking for a publisher.
Yeah.
First of all, it's multiplayer, real time. And one of the things that we need to solve is how to actually get enough people at launch to play the game, because for a real-time multiplayer game you need a lot of people at launch.
Yeah.
So my question is, what would you recommend? So on one hand, you can soft launch the game of one specific country, get some data from there, and then use it as a leverage when negotiating a deal with a publisher. But that country has specific, people from that country could vary and the data could be distorted depending on which region are you. So my question is, what do you think is best to get data from one region, from one small region, and then try to get a deal with a publisher, or try before this?
So So let's say you decide to go in Sweden to make your soft launch. Okay, let's pick Sweden because I like the color of their flag. What do you feel is going to be your budget to get the users to play your game? What in your mind do you think you're going to have to spend to see that?
To the whole budget?
For the soft launch, for that month of soft launch, let's say.
Well, I haven't really thought much about this, but let's pick up a number, okay? Let's pick up, let's say, $10,000.
Okay, let's multiply it by 10. Okay, let's say $100,000. Okay, so here's one thing I would recommend you do. So I would start talking to publishers right away, anyway, and tell them about your plan. Then when you go home later today or this weekend, go on Facebook and try to make a targeted ad campaign for your game. So select people from Sweden that like arena battle games, or that like Clash Royale, or that like games that are similar to yours. And then that's going to give you the population that likes those games within that region, and also the cost of that ad. So you're going to see that your CPI to buy in Sweden or whatever is going to be high. It's going to be very high. And that's another thing you need to be aware of. When you do a market research on your game, even if you're not a good marketer or whatever, make sure to look at those things. Make sure to think about, I am going to battle against the biggest game in the world. That company spends close to maybe $500,000 a day in marketing, a day. So that drives the cost of the user up, right? Because at one point, you almost run out of users. So they're going to be like, I'm willing to pay $22 to a user to get a user to come play my free-to-play game. Okay? So that is all relevant things that you need to know, because one of the most dangerous thing about your game is that it's in a most competitive market, which means that it's going to be extremely difficult to acquire users. So to do a test in Sweden, in my opinion, you would need maybe, like 10, 15, 20,000 users to have a good concurrent user base at one point, and you need that in a very condensed timeline, right? You don't need 1,000 users a day for 20 days. You need to get 10,000, 10,000, 10,000 for 3 days. So that's going to drive your cost up, because you're going to need to drive a lot of user, so it's going to cost you a lot of money. So what I would do is I would go to a publisher showing him that I know that. So at least you go there and you show you have experience saying, hey, this is the game I'm building. This is my Facebook fake ad campaign that I built for Sweden because I think my CPIs are a bit high. Do you have a trick on that? Is there something that you would do different? And how about other countries? What other countries are you soft launching in now? So you build a conversation, you build knowledge, and if they find your test appealing and your studio, they're at least going to like you better than most other studios because you did that homework. But the main challenge you're going to get for your game is finding a publisher that has the ability to drive the cost of installs down. So very, very good at user acquisition, and also the ability to throw a lot of money at launch on your game. Like the month of launch is probably going to cost $5 million. So those are things that you should think of, and this is what I would do if I were you. Does that answer your question? Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, we're done. 5 minutes. Last question.
Do publisher impose specific features in games?
Sometimes, yes. Well, they might know better, right? They might know that, hey, you're making a free-to-play game and you have no gacha mechanic. Maybe you need something, right? So, yeah, they might impose. But if you are in production, you've negotiated the deal, they made you payments, you've been working with them for 4 months, and they say, I think we should put that feature in, they're not just doing it for shits and giggles, right? They might have a good reason. All right, well, thank you, everybody. So it was really fun.